It's been a generational week in Indie Ball. We're talking babies and boomers on this week's episode of the Indie Ball Report podcast. We are back again for 300 and I think 13. I don't have the number listed right here. Yeah, it is 13. How about that? Of the Indie Ball Report podcast, or so it is called. How you doing, Ryan?
You know, I'm good. Life is life. Chaos everywhere.
So, have you considered burning the furniture yet?
I mean, getting closer to it because currently the heater's not working, so it's a little cold in here. So we'll see. Heater decided to wait till the very end of the winter to finally be like, nah. So that's a fun extra bill. Let's go, baby.
What it sounds like to me is you just got to tough it out for like a month or so until it gets in the 70s.
Out here rolling the poverty dice. Exciting stuff.
It's going to be 70 on Sunday.
That's good. So I mean, you're going to be here. So, I mean, it's whatever temperature you feel like tolerating, my guy.
Buddy, I sleep above a garage. It is routinely like 60 at best in here.
Crazy. His family doesn't even know that. He lives between, like, above the garage, like literally, like he just like scrounged in, moved some insulation, and got there.
Insulation? There's no insulation in this house.
Great. This is what people
IVR
come
to
here
DIY. For. This is going to be phenomenal. So we do have topics this week. We have an interview this week. We got the executive vice president and general manager of the Schaumburg Boomers, Michael Larson, on the program. You'll hear that towards the end of today's episode, and we can kick off the topic discussions with Oakland because they're in the news again, and this time it's actually, I would call it a positive reason, which is, you know, optimistic, but they will be playing a one-off game against the single A affiliate of the San Francisco Giants, the San Jose Giants. April 2nd is the game at 6 p.m. local, and it will be in San Jose, billed as the Battle of Bay 2.0. This seems to be the first noted occurrence of affiliated versus partner league. So that is interesting there. There's a slew of logistical concerns I certainly have, and I'm sure they're shared by several others. But yes, this seems like a good runway into discussing it. And in case you're curious as to how much they're charging for these tickets, they being the San Jose Giants, between $23 to $53 all included.
Oh,
I thought it was a little much for an exhibition game.
I mean, Ballers tickets I know were more expensive than usual, but like, I mean, like, this isn't like playing the Giants in an exhibition game.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know about that. Settle down now. I don't know. I mean, you're really going to have to lean in.
Single A teams here now.
Yeah, you're really going to need to lean in to like getting the crowd excited about it. But even then, you're just pumping your like most loyal fans for a very expensive ticket to see two exhibition teams, one of which has not had spring training.
Yeah.
Play. Yeah, dude.
Like, here's my concern. Like, I'll get the concerns out of the way first, because I think the fun part, obviously, is they're playing an affiliate team. It's good publicity, and it seems to be for the right reasons. And there's buy-in from both the major league side of things or affiliate side of things and the independent and pioneer league side of things. I think that's positive. And perhaps you are showing another option for family entertainment by playing this game and introducing the Ballers to a new market. That's obviously a positive here. And I suppose the Giants end of things, meaning the parent club Giants, is it shows some goodwill towards the very large market that's next door to you. And perhaps you could try to start winning over some younger fans or people that are very much hurt by the A's decision to leave, but still want to watch Major League Baseball. San Francisco seems like the most logical next end to that. Now, how successful that will be, we'll see, but that seems to be their end of this. Now, the critique part of it is Oakland's opening day is May 20th.
Mm-hmm.
This game's April 2nd.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's nearly 6 weeks or so apart. So where are they getting the roster from is the immediate thing. The second
Flying
thing
them in
is,
the day before, flying them out the next day. So
and
we can
that's
discuss that.
and that's the second thing, which is how are you going to get players and staff in, and at what expense? And even if you're flying the cheapest flights, and I will assume most people going from Florida, Texas, Arizona, for most of these guys, that's still going to be very expensive to run all this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd imagine the profit split is, if even existent, not in their favor. So I don't really see the break-even point on this. I don't really see how they're justifying this, because even if you're going to say, well, it's not really a baseball expense, it's a promotional expense, a marketing expense, that sounds like it takes up most of your budget for the year.
I have a lot. I don't even know what to go with here. I back the napkin math says maybe 20 grand to get the team in and out.
It's not.
There are some local players. Will guys be stretched out? Maybe we're making too big of a deal of that because, guys everybody's kind of getting ready in case they get a call in March, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So the guys are, fairly ready, but it's also, there's a lot of new faces on this Oakland team. Like I would say more than average for the Pioneer League, which already has a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm trying to find my verbiage here, but I think it's going to be difficult bringing a team where you only are vaguely familiar with what everybody's bringing to the table at times, and guys maybe aren't fully ready to rock against this. It could be a recipe for disaster. On paper, head to head, a Pioneer League team should beat a California League team, but I don't know.
I mean, it's a one-off. I'm not really concerned about what happens on the field.
I just don't want it to be. I don't want an embarrassment. I mean, it goes back to something we talked about Oakland prior, which is like, it's good to get attention on indie ball, but don't embarrass us. So there's that. Beyond it, while we're talking cost, I mean, I did reach out to someone from the organization who was like, well, indicated that it's going to be costly. I pressed a bit on how they're going to be paying for that and who the financial backer is. Could not comment on that. If I were to go conspiracy brain.
Ooh, conspiratorial.
Mm-hmm. Do you know who owns San Jose?
I do not.
That would be our friends at Diamond Baseball Holdings.
Wow, what a coincidence.
Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if there's not some familiarity between ownership groups. I would not be super surprised if there was not some sort of relationship there. If there was, I don't know. I have suspicions about that ownership group. I don't know. It feels weird. Something feels weird because Diamond Baseball Holdings, which we've mentioned before, doesn't make moves without it making sense on a balance sheet.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder why this happens. Diamond Baseball Holdings also is almost interchangeable with MLB. Like they are very close to MLB. Like literally one of the people running Diamond Baseball Holdings was working with Manfred on restructuring minor league baseball when the cuts happened back in like 2020. So it is
Diamond
not
Baseball League.
Right. And part of me is wondering, is this an effort funded by MLB backing to not lose the city of Oakland for fandom purposes? Is this an effort, though if you're MLB, it would be maybe trying to draw more people to San Jose games rather than Oakland games. Because, Oakland being successful doesn't necessarily help Major League Baseball, at least in their eyes. I think it does, but it's a different thing. I'm just wondering what the angle would be. If I'm Diamond Baseball Holdings, why would I care? Other than just another expensive gate to add, which could be it. I mean, their expenses aren't really going up. And one more game check for players, that's fine. But, I'm just a little... That's where my head's at. I can't wrap my head around it exactly. I'm going to think on it for a while. I'll probably make a video about it at some point, but I'm curious to suspicious. And I know that a lot of that is because of my feelings on the Oakland ownership. But I think this also is maybe the end scene of the documentary, which is something that we've been talking about over the past year.
Could be. I mean,
yet to be confirmed documentary, except I've heard from people in the league that there is documentary. So, yeah, man, I don't know. I have more questions than answers. I have more doubt than excitement. I have more skepticism than excitement, I should say. And there is a little part of me. This is what I'm trying to work over in my head, right?
Yeah.
Would it ever make sense for Diamond Baseball Holdings to have a minor league team in Oakland? I don't think it would. But it's interesting to see they're trying to build something there.
It wouldn't make sense unless they got the buy-in to get a new stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yes.
In that sense, if you build up the Ballers brand and community engagement with them, which was fine, but nothing I don't think in particularly impressive last year from my recollection.
Mm-hmm.
If you could build it up to be notable, you could probably then try to strong-arm local government to building you a new stadium. Because they obviously won't take them while they're in the city park.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine the cost on a minor league park being too much of a sticking point for the headache it's going to cause. Because what would we say the construction price on it would be? 35 to 50?
Probably.
Okay. Even call it with overrun 65.
And maybe you could even put over the Coliseum is.
Yeah.
Because it wants something where the Coliseum is. Just the way the things are built. I mean, there's a transit area around there. Like it is a central point. Like things are still going on in that area.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me,
if
they don't want it blank.
Yeah. If you turn it into like an entertainment district, you absolutely could throw a stadium on there, throw some sort of live music stage there with some sort of downtown bar district, shops, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And probably throw in some apartments and high rises and things of that nature as well, and then bill it. That'd probably be the selling point. So, assuming Diamond Baseball Holdings, whether through MLB, current ownership, or just general existence, is in contact with California politicians, Bay Area politicians, and at least a few major developers that have a history of working in the area. And with the people that are decision makers, that could be the angle. You go in, you test the water on it, and then you see if you can't go for a big redevelopment. Although, admittedly, off of one game, that does seem to be a large jump.
So here would be, if I can fully lay out my conspiracy theory.
Okay.
With, again, nothing other than, this is not with any knowledge of anything other than the way they like to interact, right?
Yeah.
We have already seen Diamond Baseball Holdings likes to, this is not a minor league owner. Like, we need to remember that.
Yeah.
The Diamond Baseball Holdings is massive, and their strength comes from the options that their size gives them. So we just saw it with Modesto leaving Modesto because basically Diamond Baseball Holdings had another agreement with a city who was going to build them a stadium, and they were able to play this like shuffle game. I don't remember off the top of my head exactly what it is, but basically, if you ever played that like square like puzzle game where it's like usually a 4x4 grid and there's one missing piece that you have to like slide all the pieces around, they kind of do that. They did it with Pearl, Mississippi, where they were like, "Oh, you don't want to give us a stadium? Okay, well, we're going to Columbia, I think it was, Georgia." Modesto, they did the same thing. They're like, "Well, we have a new stadium coming in," so they did like the swap between, I think, like Bakersfield and a couple other places to like rotate around, and then boom, Modesto doesn't have a team anymore because they wouldn't pay for a stadium for Diamond Baseball Holdings. Because what's the biggest expense if you're Diamond Baseball Holdings? Buying stadiums and building stadiums. So you use leverage of getting a minor league team into a city to get them to do it for you, then that takes out massive amounts of the expense for you. And then it's just kind of profiting from there, running like it's a balance sheet, as I said. So my thought is they already have 1, 2, 3, 4 different teams, like 5 technically in California, if you count Modesto, which will still move within California.
Yeah.
I mean, they already have, I'm sure, a relationship with the state of California. At that point, you own 5 professional teams in the state. There is a hole in Oakland that there is a stadium there. There is a district there that they're going to need to remove that stadium. It would be great to be able to put something there, both to save face and just logistically, it makes sense. If you're Diamond Baseball Holdings, that land, that's a major league size chunk of land with a minor league stadium potentially going on it. If you were to go that route, that allows for maybe some even additional development if you want to do that. If I am a private equity company like Diamond Baseball Holdings or the company that owns them, I mean, yeah, man, I'd sniff around it. Why would you not? I mean, San Jose was like one of the OG organizations they own. Like this, they have a lot of familiarity with this area. I mean, I do think maybe it's just as simple as trying to win those fans down to San Jose and like sort of extend that market. But I wouldn't put it past Diamond Baseball Holdings to be looking for another spot where they can start to leverage, because every area that they can get a confirmation like, hey, like we would like to do something with you, gives them leverage over every other team they own. Because it doesn't have to come from like nearby teams or organizations. You know, hell, if, you know, they need to do something in, I'm trying to pick one that seems vulnerable at any given time. I don't know. Hell, say like Wichita or whatever. Like it's not them, but like, you know, but Wichita actually is a beautiful ballpark. But if they had an issue, it could be a team L across the country where they are trying to get something done. They can't get it done. And they're like, like we'll just move to another city that'll have us. Yeah, affiliations might bounce around a little bit, but like we can make that work. We're so ingrained with the MILB and Major League Baseball, we can make it happen. Then there you go, man. Like it's that if I was to put on my conspiracy hat, I wonder if there's something there. The Coliseum cannot sit there. It cannot just sit empty. That's not going to happen. You don't just want an empty lot. I mean, sure, they could put something dumb there, like a convention center or industrial parks. Sure. Distribution centers, all the rage, famously. But I would just say, especially that close to the bay, to be fair, but I would just say that keep an eye on it. This is interesting. I'm more interested in the political of this because, if you know, let's not sleep on this. We've been over. There's a bit of a weird contention between the the partner leagues and indie leagues and MLB of what is the partnership? What is the depth of this? Does MLB want them to be successful or do they want them under their thumb? I do think right now Pioneer League has a closer tie to Major League Baseball than others, just based on the fact they're testing some rules. They've been,
they were once already there.
There's a financial dependency there. There's a lot of familiarity, and it is interesting that a Major League, affiliated club would go out of their way to play an exhibition game against, an indie ball team. Yes, Major League clubs themselves play college teams and all that, but it's not quite the same. That's not playing another professional baseball team that's unrelated. That's interesting. It's a reason it hasn't happened before,
Yeah, plus you also got this horrible arena on the property too.
Yeah.
So you have 2 arenas not being used.
Yeah. So
just my one question then is, are you more incentivized to try and throw a minor league park on there or just put up a different stadium that replaces the 2?
Yeah, but what will you put there?
I mean, like, here's my thing though. You see, like, I believe it was Cincinnati. I was trying to build a brand new, like, major league caliber stadium, indoor arena, this is. And they didn't have anyone lined up to actually take the thing. They just built it so that way they could be more of a draw in the area. I wonder if Oakland tries that and goes entertainment district for that. Because it seems like it's large enough to get away with doing something like that.
Perhaps. I just think you would need to have something to go there. Like who would fill it? Like I think it's much easier. I think there is the embrace of the ballers from the city does seem to show a acknowledgement that they kind of need a pro baseball team, whether they need it, or whether they image need it, whatever. They like from the optics perspective, but they seem to know they need it. I would not be surprised if ownership hasn't been kind of like, from the ballers perspective, kind of like, what's up the Coliseum? I know that they've talked about trying to play games at the Coliseum.
Well, yeah, I mean, we know that.
I don't think, but at times, I am interested. I think everyone has an angle here. That's obvious. It's not just a fun publicity thing. It's not just a bringing it all together thing. There's something that is going to be. There's somebody's angling. I would say likely Diamond Baseball Holdings, though I would not be surprised if there's not some sort of skin in the game from the ballers ownership perspective, whether that is potentially laying groundwork for a future agreement to make them their own team, which I still don't think makes any money. A Diamond Baseball Holdings team in the future if they get a ballpark. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that Diamond Baseball Holdings does. I mean, think about what it could look like if Diamond Baseball Holdings, the news comes out that they're trying to make a deal with the city to get a stadium. It's reasonably affordable, bring minor league baseball back. There could be some support there. I don't know. It would be interesting to see how it goes. But then again, the number one thing for Diamond Baseball Holdings is it gives you leverage over every other city that your teams play in, which is 40 now, something like that.
Yeah.
So the next time they go to be like, hey, like we need $3 million put into this stadium, and the town's, whatever town it is like, well, I don't think we can do that. What, like, we need to find some other deal with that, or like, no, that's on you guys to do it, literally contractually. They can be like, well, you know, then we have another town that like go. They could do a full Grand Junction jackalopes move and be like, there's other cities who will have us, except potentially they actually would. So.
I totally forgot about that Grand Junction thing.
I have not a second, dude. Some of the reason this NOCO video is taking so long is because I'm also making the Grand Junction video at the same time. So we're in this.
Colorado baseball just got put on notice.
And don't think for a second I'm not already working on an Oakland one too. I'm so tired, dude. The Pioneer League freaking exhausts me.
Did you ever think for a second, maybe you should just write the idea down and then finish the thing you're working on, and then
the problem is they're so intertwined. Like, there was ownership of both teams by the same person. Like, it's hard not to at least be making the script of one while writing the other as well. Because like the what the hell happened to Grand Junction is kind of necessary to understand what's going on in NOCO.
Oh, all right,
dude. That's how I feel.
I do agree something's going to get done with this site. I'm curious to know if it's a minor league ballpark or not. And
it'd be complicated.
Yeah, it would have to be bumped up to at least AA, I think. I don't think a single A team would even really be considered here. I just don't think that site's big enough to draw. I will say one thing that's interesting on Google Maps, you go to the Coliseum site, the lot that is between Coliseum Way, like South Coliseum Way and Coliseum Way, it's just labeled Jewish Heritage Night Tailgate.
Vibes.
Yeah. They just stuffed them in the back by the river.
Oakland A. Okay, hold on. Can I just also this was yesterday. Part of the Bay Area. This is from something for Caro and 4 in San Francisco. Part of the Bay Area's daily routine for 5 decades. The worn out legacy of the BART trains are now just a ghost of commutes gone by. Save for a select few, they're getting a second chance. Most of BART's fleet of nearly 700 legacy train cars got scrapped in 2024, but a select few are still around with a new purpose. The Oakland A's were going to take one of the cars, but as we all know, they fled out of town with their tail between their legs, said BART spokesperson Jim Allison. I have thoughts on that, but I'm going to let that go for now. So the Oakland Ballers are stepping in, and they're going to use it as a sort of beverage food place. Lead train car number 1234 in all of its 1970s space age glory is now in the hands of Michael Lynn of San Ramon, who had a bright idea back 2018, 2019 and said, hey, BART's getting new trains. What are they going to do with the old ones? Can we build a house in it? Said Lynn. Well, not exactly a train buff, UC Berkeley architecture grad. envision yada yada, the house and the train. So like multiple people are like grabbing these things, but the ballers are one of them, I guess, trying to solve their lack of a concourse issue. So, okay. Going to take, okay, good, kind of cool idea. The other part of me is like, all right, still not putting down any permanent roots, my guy. Like, I get that this maybe isn't their permanent ballpark concept, but I am like, they're like rooted in Oakland, except not literally, not really putting like a concourse on anything or like solid foundations. And it's easy to be like, well, because it's like a public park and like we're doing, but it is like very easy to not have anything tying you to the area. You can, in a moment's notice.
Yeah, drop it and go.
Yeah. Anyway, did we also see Oakland Ballers got a new owner yesterday?
I did not know.
Blair Underwood, Emmy winner, Grammy winner, star of stage and screen, and social impact ambassador. Whatever, man.
No, another one like that.
And here's my thing. Okay, I will bring it back to Oakland and we'll move on. And because I have got messages like, dude, like, why are you like so skeptical of this Oakland ownership? One, because other team owners are, so that's a good indication. Two, they continue to fundraise. Just talked about last week, they got like a couple million in fundraising in from like fan ownership, right? Buying like shares.
Yeah.
They've had multiple different people come in now as owners, like fairly people with some money, owners. Mm. And in my thing is like, they're talking about how invested they are in the thing. They talk about, you know, they're in it. Like they're not necessarily in it for money, but I am like, do all these owners add money or do they reduce the money being thrown in by the original pair of owners that we're talking about? Like I love to see the books on that. I would love to know, how is this operating? How in this thing are you now currently? How much of your money is going into this? I'm sure some. And then and then palling around with Dime Baseball Holdings, man. You want to get my eyebrows raised on that? Come on.
It does seem like an odd coalition.
Good luck with the documentary. I bet you Underwood's involved in the documentary somehow.
But I need to know, is there going to be a Green Day soundtrack?
Oh, yeah, the other one, too. That's right. He just loves baseball in Oakland. You know, classic anti-establishment punk rocker teaming up with the rich guys, but that's cool. We in it.
I mean, they are the rich guys now.
Yep. It's like the whole Rage Against the Machine thing, more of that, but that's in the weeds. Anyway.
So that's Oakland's deal. They're playing they're playing a game against San Jose, and that's kind of interesting. So
good luck to them.
Hope they keep balling. We'll go to the Frontier League for the rest of the day. We're going to start with some coaching notes. We're going to see Lake Erie bring back Alfredo Gonzalez. He's going to serve as their hitting coach and a player coach, so good for them. Hopefully they hit better.
Yes, that's a must.
Because if they could have just managed to put up a few more runs, they would have earned the right to get smacked around by Quebec.
Right. But, they instead seemingly ran the Iowa offense.
3 and out.
For my Big Ten football sickos, yes.
Very good. Very good. So, yeah, cool. Al's back like that. Going to Evansville now. They announced their full staff. Going as follows. Andy McCauley back as manager, his 15th season. Max Peterson back as pitching coach, 11th season. TJ Zarowitz will come in as the hitting coach. He's been around for quite some time. Been in Lincoln, travel team, I believe Boulders last year, if I'm not mistaken. Pirate associate scout for a brief moment. He knows his way around these types of things, so good for him. First base, Billy Easley. 5th year with the organization. Bench coach going to be Boots Day, which is the team's actual first manager in the team's history. So that's kind of cool. We got several managers on this bench, as well as the spring training instructor, Dan Ron, which previously managed Lake Erie. And then we have 3 assistants. So, or 4 assistants, my mistake. Bobby Siegel, Phil Britton, J.R. Seymour, and Rob Watson. All are going to be on this staff. So a rather all-encompassing staff, if you want to get to it.
Yeah, there's a lot there. I don't have a lot to add on it. I mean,
yeah,
that's good to know. That's a cheap take, but I don't know. I'm trying to think what I have for this team so far. Do I have any projections done for them? No, I do not. Classic Ryan.
Always bringing something to the party.
Always bringing something to the party. I mean, do I have Lake Erie? I also do not. So I really brought nothing to the Frontier League side of the conversation. I was going to say, I mean, I did a bunch of numbers on the boulders this past week or so, but that's not do anything for us in this conversation. So that sucks. Good job, Ryan.
You mean tell me a team in New York has nothing at all to do with a team in Indiana and Ohio?
I mean, unless it's relevant that the Boulders are projecting as a below 500 team so far. Early projection.
It'll change. It'll change. No doubt.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yes. So those are just some coaching notes. Thought they were interesting enough to mention. So keep an eye on that.
Mm-hmm.
And we finish up with some mascot talk before we send you to the interview. We have the Down East Bird Dogs. They announced their mascot last week. They have named a mascot competition or contest that will run from the 7th, so approximately a week ago, to the 18th, Tuesday. Get the names in. Name will be unveiled on the 21st, so next Friday. Have fun.
Yeah.
Mascot's a dog, by the way, as you could probably guess.
What's your name of choice here?
I mean, I didn't really even think about this.
It's on you. That's all I think about.
That's all I think about. Just what to name the Down East mascot.
Okay, names. If only one of us had recently done a content piece about mascots that you could quick promote here.
I could, but I'm not going to.
Wow. Selfless.
I know.
What about Sam Coonrod showing up? Former Met, former Philly. That's a spot for us. Showing up with Gateway.
Oh, yeah.
The Coon Dog.
See, the problem is I don't even really look at signings in the off season because I don't believe many of them are going to stick around. So, because you know, O'Grady got released by Cleburne, which I'm sure was more him saying I'm kind of good. But I'm kind of good. I thought I wanted to try more, but now it's like, Cop out answer for the mascot name is Birdie.
Daddy. Daddy dog. I'm
this is why we can't open with Oakland talk. We cannot open with Oakland talk because then it just goes off the rails too quickly.
It goes off the rails. Dude, I'm sorry if I'm less engaged in the conversation currently because I'm thinking about how if they show up, get embarrassed by San Jose, make everyone look bad, make any ball look amateurish, I will show up to their ballpark and light myself on fire like one of those Tibetan monks. I swear on my life I'll do it.
You really better hope they bring a pitcher.
And if I'm honest, if they go into Business Time Baseball Holdings and do something stupid, actually, then I don't even care. It's fine. Whatever. Let the soulless do business with the soulless. I'm available for hire still, though.
Mississippi also announced their mascot and a naming contest this week. You have 6 names to choose from, and the contest runs until the 21st.
Could have named it Daddy and Daddy Fish.
Fish is actually one of the names. But,
yeah, Fish is interesting. Mo is a tough one. The same week that Mo Vaughn's in the news.
Yeah. One fan's going to win 4 tickets to opening night. Your 6 names to pick from are Fish, Muddy, Mo, Sludge, Chumps, and Bubba.
I don't think people from Mississippi like the name Bubba just based on their response to Bubba Wallace in NASCAR. Unless there's another reason they wouldn't like Bubba Wallace, but nothing stands out. I don't know. Maybe, yeah, I can't think of a single other reason why they wouldn't like Bubba Wallace. So maybe it's the name.
Gotta be the name.
Gotta
they're
be.
just not a fan of Bubba Watson.
Sludge is an electric name, by the way. Sludge is insane. And I love that. Like, welcome to the field. Everyone's favorite mascot, Sludge. Honestly, it's giving like remember that like wrestling event that like Spider-Man goes to in the beginning when he first discovers his powers? You know,
yeah.
Going against Bonesaw. 4 minutes of playtime. It has that energy. It has like, and Bonesaw taking on Sludge, like, or worst stripper name of all time. I'm thinking like Magic Michaels, like, which is like the other version of Magic Mike's, but you know, you can fill in the blanks.
I thought it was like a craft store for strippers.
First and foremost, first of all, if you've seen the amount of glitter, it basically is. Secondly, I'm all in on Sludge, dude. I think Sludge is funny.
I mean, Fish is just like the most brain rot name possible.
Fish is dumb. I need them to not do Fish. I'm almost like, did they already select one?
It does kind of feel like they already selected one. Like, Muddy's a cop-out. Mo is kind of dumb. Fish feels like we need a sixth name. Toss it on there. Even the way they wrote it in the same way when I write things. I'm like, I don't know where the hell I'm going with this. So it's just like, just trust me, bro. Like, I feel like the real answer here is pretty much either going to be Sludge or Chomps.
I think it could be Mo.
I hope to God it's not Mo.
Muddy the Mud Monster, I don't think makes sense. I don't think they're going to do Fish.
Mo Mud Monster?
Bubba might be the move, frankly.
Could be the move.
Maybe because Bubba also, the description does feel like the one that's the most complete. Like they've already written the marketing pitch on Bubba.
Oh, you're going to make
like, compared. So for example, Fish, it's like, yeah, we hear you. That's just the word fish, but he's not just a fish. He's the fish, the most fun, the most energetic, the most bat swinging, crowd hype, and belly flopping. Okay. Like it's just
electrifying. Okay. Man, it's sport entertainment.
Like, every team needs a Bubba. He's the guy who starts the wave, high fives everyone. If you want a name with big time Southern charm and mascot sized personality, like doing the thought process on the name, like reflecting, like, I don't know.
True.
Feels different. It's similar but different. It feels like there's a little more on the Bubba thing. Though, would they have led with Bubba though if they already really kind of wanted to push it? Maybe. Sludge is insane. I love it.
Did you vote?
Yeah, I voted for Sludge, baby.
Oh, well, hold on. Let me go ahead and vote.
Sludge Town.
Screw it. I'm running with Sludge too. This is an
Daddy
official
Sludge.
You got issues here because everything seems to be something daddy after it. So, like,
this is a Sludge podcast.
Okay, so what I'm hearing
Big
here
Sludge
is,
pod.
So what I hear is once this mascot gets named, you're going to be going to bat hard to get Sludge on the show.
Yes, I just wanted it to be like squelching sounds.
Squelching sounds.
Yeah.
Just random fish noises. Which, unrelated to all of this, can we talk about how neither Down East nor Mississippi are linked on the Frontier League site yet?
Insane.
Like,
you want somebody to do your site, Frontier League? Give me a call.
Like, I'm just saying, at a certain point here, you know, like, we need to go ahead and make it easy to access.
Mm-hmm.
Also, in case you're wondering, Mud Monster merch is in fact cheaper than WNBA merch.
Facts.
We have a
joke. What else do we got here?
We got an interview that we should probably
answer. Yeah, we do.
So, we spent some time this week talking with the executive vice president of the Schaumburg Boomers, Michael Larson. I thought it was a pretty good conversation. Do we want to talk about it before or on the flip side of this interview?
We'll talk about it on the flip side.
Okay, so then let's just get right into it.
Let's go.
Here's our conversation with Michael Larson, the Schaumburg Boomers. We continue the interview series this week, and this time we're bringing the boom, if you would. We welcome to the show the Executive Vice President and General Manager of the Schaumburg Boomers, Michael Larson. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure to have you on. We're happy to be able to talk some more baseball with more people. And Schaumburg's definitely been a team that we've watched for a while. This is a team that seemingly is always in contention and is always like right there with either being in the playoffs or making a real run in it. And that's kind of long-term success is always very fascinating to me to be able to sustain that in independent ball.
Yeah, I've been, fortunate. I've been here since 2018 was my very first season with the Boomers. But we have had the same field manager since day one of the organization back in 2012. Jamie Bennett has been really one of the premier managers in all of independent baseball. And he does a great job putting the team together every year to always be in a place to contend. I always say it looks great until you get into spring training, and then it's a matter of navigating injuries, navigating who gets picked up, who gets plucked by the big leagues, and kind of riding that out. But the core team coming into camp always looks great. And we're always in that contention. We've been in the playoffs, or like last year, we missed it on the very last day of the season. We were in the championship series in 2022, last won the championship in 21. It's always a competitive team that we put out there, and that as the one, operating the organization as a whole is a tremendous asset to have, because I rarely worry about anything baseball related in terms of getting the season ready. I can just focus on everything else that I need to do.
Yeah, and that definitely that kind of brings me into one of the questions I had, which was just wondering how that on-field product affects the off-field result, because obviously you guys are very successful on and off-field, winning several Organization of the Year awards and Executive of the Year awards and things like that. So I've kind of wondered how those two correlate, because I know they don't always go hand in hand, but it seems like in Schaumburg they do.
So I come from an older school, a little bit different model. I tend to be a bit more of a baseball purist in the operations across the board.
Yeah.
And you'll find that in a lot of operators, on the baseball side, they're all trying to win. They all care about winning, all of that. But you'll find sometimes that folks on the operations side aren't really as concerned with the baseball product. But yeah. I believe wholeheartedly that the baseball product is what drives what you do. At the end of the day, people will make claims. They'll be like, "Oh, you're basically dinner theater. You're basically this." I'm like, "No, we're a professional baseball team." And the more serious you take the professional baseball, and the better quality the professional baseball, the better your organization is overall. Now, it might not always be defined by winning the championship. There's 18 teams in the league. Only one team's going to win the championship, but being competitive and putting the best possible baseball product on the field, is just as important as anything else in the organization. And that's a big focus on what we do. I have a lot of unique opinions that I could share, but that don't tend to line up with other people. But, one of which is I believe professional baseball is meant to be played on grass. We do not put artificial turf on this field. In fact, we just a couple years ago worked with Roger Bossert from the White Sox, the sod father, and we replaced the entire field with a brand new, from grass down to the rock, playing surface that is the exact same grass that is at Wrigley Field and the exact same grass that's at Guaranteed Rate. And it's, a heavy investment in making sure that we are taking the baseball seriously. And that's the number one, thing we do. And I can list a lot of other things we do, but that was kind of the first one that came to mind as an example of my unique opinion, because you hear a lot about turf in the baseball world, and I hate it. So
yeah, we're in lockstep with you there. There's we understand the purpose of turf, especially in smaller, more localized venues where it gives you more flexibility to do other things. But as far as baseball being goes, it plays better on actual grass and dirt, and so we're always on team that. And I say at least once an interview and probably at least once an episode, that's the appeal of indie ball to me, is just that everybody's trying to win. That there is we're going to try to develop a player. We're going to try to do this. We're not going to play the best guy because this guy has a higher signing bonus and there's more invested in him. No, it's if you're one of the best 9, you're playing today. And it's that simple. And so seeing organizations with that mindset is something I always love.
I agree with you on that. I spent only 1 year in affiliated ball. And that was back when Idaho Falls was affiliated ball, not indie ball like it is now. Yep. Or MLB Partner League. I apologize. There's some people on the league level can get mad at me for calling it indie ball. This isn't the MLB Partner League podcast. I got to call it call it the right name.
Yeah, exactly.
But I agree. Minor league baseball is fun and whatnot, but you don't have any control over the product. It doesn't feel like winning is as important, right? The guys playing the games obviously are trying to win the games, but you might have a guy being told by the organization, hey, you're going to go learn to play third base, and it doesn't matter how many times you boot the ball for the next 3 weeks. Or, you know, the guys, you're going to throw 60 pitches today. You need 20 of them to be sliders. And, you know, like it's all predetermined in terms of what you're trying to do with some of the guys. And that impacts whether or not games are won or lost. And it, to a more baseball oriented fan, you notice those things, right? Like whereas, you know, if you're kind of more of a casual fan, it maybe doesn't matter as much. But to your point, that's one of the things that I have absolutely loved about, you know, being at this level and spending 19 years out of my 20 seasons in organizations that are where you have control over your own talent and what they do on the field.
Yeah, absolutely there. And I know, just speaking from a personal perspective, I'm obviously in North Jersey, as a lot of people that listen would know. And so we had Somerset for a while that was independent, and they were part of the Atlantic League. And I was like going over there and watching them play, and it always had a certain feel to it. And I've gone back a couple times now that they're AA affiliate, and it just doesn't feel the same. I can't really put my finger on it, but it just, there's some sort of subconscious thing where I'm like, yeah, but like to your point, what's that guy told you have to throw X amount of Y pitch? Or like, it feels like, oh no, that guy, he's trying to do something in particular with his swing today. You could tell it's not something that he's comfortable with. And it just affects the experience for me as a baseball fan seeing that. So
I grew up baseball wise, you know, my longest tenure was 10 years in Fargo with the Red Hawks. And, you know, 9 of those with Doug Simonek as the manager. And, you know, when I got to Fargo, there was always a massive winning tradition. And, you know, I don't remember the exact numbers here, but it was, you know, 16 years in a row of making the playoffs or something absolutely ridiculous over the, you know, at the time I was there, and it got close to 20 years in a row. And, you know, that organization at the peak of its success, if the fan base expected winning baseball every year, you know, and it got to the point sometimes where you'd hear about it if you didn't win, if you only won your division but didn't win the championship. It was like, what the heck's going on, you know? And that was kind of where I really learned that mindset of just how big consistently being a quality baseball product is going to have on your organization.
Being in that kind of environment, being in that kind of fan base and that kind of culture where, like, you know, like, I can't just run the Bad News Bears out there. I have to find like a guy that can build me a team and can, you know, give people what they want, which is high quality baseball, is just something that's wonderful to see and hear and be a part of. I'll throw it to Ryan out and bring him into this conversation because, you know, I'm sure he wants to continue on the baseball talk.
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of scrapped my notes already on this because I didn't know that I'd be talking to someone where I'd be looking at like Teamwork Online to see if you guys are hiring. Because I am very in line with the thought processes so far, and I'm trying not to just be a yes man over here. I guess I'll start because the argument I tend to get, because, you know, I look at a lot of the front office stuff around indie ball. I've worked in a front office briefly, but, you know, on technically the marketing side and the baseball ops side. So I see it from both ends. And as you know, I enjoy the baseball side more, but I'll, you know, do the off field, you know, focus things as needed. And the feedback you tend to get from other GMs and owners is, you know, well, it doesn't seem like winning sells tickets. So have you seen something different than that, at least when it comes to fan attraction or fan retention between Fargo and Schaumburg, I guess, in those two experiences in particular?
I think that when you talk about it, like at a micro level of, hey, the team's good this year and you know, is that going to impact attendance? Probably not as much as you think. But when you have a culture, when you have a systemic, hey, I know you guys are always going to be good, you're always going to have a good team, that definitely, I think, builds. It's more of the macro level of what to be, you know, expecting. But let's talk about it from, you know, just the general mindset of the social media based world that we live in, the, you know, quick talk about items. when you're winning games and you have a good record, you have cheap content. You have the ability to brag about it. You have something to put out there, and you can consistently put it out there. That saves you from having to come up with a lot of other ideas of what to talk about with yourself, and the classic turd polishing when you have a terrible team and you're just trying to make it sound like everything's good. That stuff naturally creates more content to talk about and stuff that people are going to react to. And in the world of algorithms of social media, that's going to drag things along as well. So I think those are the two ways that I see that it does actually have a pretty big impact on attendance, because it gives you things to talk about. It gives you things to, as a culture, build around. But it's not like the major league level, right? Like where the White Sox were the worst team in the history of baseball last year, and nobody went. And next year, if they're all of a sudden contending, it's going to be full. Right. Like it doesn't have those kind of impacts like you would see at a major league level, because there's not enough people following everything day to day. But it does help with the overall brand image, the overall culture that you present.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I think that might apply a little bit. Nick, we briefly kind of touched on it, where so many markets are also still fighting the battle of what is indie ball and is it amateur baseball? And it's nice if there is a question mark around what you're walking into. It is nice to know it's at least a good enough product to be winning. I'll sort of transition off this a little bit and just sort of get into mentality on things elsewhere, because I do find it interesting that you were in Fargo, now you're in Schaumburg, and over that time, because you got into Fargo, it was like 2007, right?
2008.
2008. Yep. Okay. So what I guess I'm looking to get is, because you mentioned earlier something I didn't even think about, is just the market size, which if you want to, you can touch on. But what are some things that have definitely across, the nearly 2 decades and in these 2 locations and 2 organizations and 2 leagues, what has sort of applied in both spots across the board, and what has definitely been unique to one location over the other?
I think at the end, the thing that doesn't change no matter what market you're in is that people care about the atmosphere. They care about how they're treated when they're at the ballpark, and they care about the experience that they get. From a marketing and operating standpoint, though, it is a completely different world. 10 years in Fargo, we talked about this off air, but you're the only team in the market, and you're the only professional baseball team for hundreds of miles, right? Mm-hmm. So the newspaper is going to run stories about everything you do. You're going to get your box scores in there. You're going to, I don't know, almost every night we had highlights on the nightly news, right? So that's a engine of that you can't, a media engine that you can't get in the Chicago market, right? So generally speaking, if you're being talked about in the Chicago market, it probably means something went horribly wrong. Like that's why they're drawing attention to you. So I had a massive adjustment when I came from Fargo in 17 to Schaumburg in 18, of just learning how to carve out your niche in a busy and cluttered market. Not only are you in a major league market, you're in a major league market that has 2 teams, and a third if you think Milwaukee's not that far away. If you notice, since we're in the northwest suburbs, you have 2 major league teams. You have, I don't even want to count how many minor league teams are in the market. But we have, competition on the minor league level just, 20 miles away in 2 different directions, with 2 American Association teams on either side of us. And then of course there's 2 Frontier League teams, all these teams everywhere. And you have to really, carve out exactly what part of that market you're going to get and how you're going to talk about yourself, right? So your own social medias, your own things that you put out become way more important, because there's no one else talking about you other than you. And that becomes a major thing to kind of focus on. And that, I can get into the details, but on the flip side, there's so many people here. And Chicago is a market that absolutely loves baseball. There's a reason why there's 2 major league teams and umpteen minor league teams. So the market loves its baseball. And they love winning baseball, kind of to get back to what we were talking about earlier. And, so kind of tapping into that is a real nice natural resource to get into, and just learning how to adjust to those those things and how you talk about yourselves and where you put yourself. It's Schaumburg specifically is a market that is absolutely loaded with entertainment venues, because it's our competition isn't just who's in Rosemont or who's in Kane County or wherever. It's everything in the region, that can compete with the entertainment dollar, right? So Schaumburg is absolutely loaded just right here in our backyard with all the different things that people can do on a Friday night or a Tuesday night or whatever. So learning how to stand out above that as well has been a major part of what we've done here. I typically, don't pay attention to any of our competitors. I don't really run into them too much. I just focus on doing our stuff the best that we possibly can and focus on our market and how we represent our market and what we can do to enhance the fan base that we have. Every now and then we'll kind of run into things. I know there's some towns halfway between here and Kane County that we kind of, we'll compete over, but we've got nothing but respect for the guys down there. Rosemont's a little bit trickier because we tend to blend in a little bit more with each other and overlap with each other a little bit more. But we really focus just on what we can do here and be the best versions of ourselves for the market that we're in.
Nick, did you have anything that sort of ran through on topics you want to hit?
That last one kind of made me think about, like, how does Schaumburg, stand out amongst everyone in that crowded market? And I think we're getting on that. And so I do wonder, because there are so many teams rather in the greater Chicago area, how that work. Because, like, is there a cultural difference in each of these suburbs? Because there's obviously some in each direction of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just wondering a little bit about baseball culture in general in Chicago, and then Schaumburg in particular standing out. And if there's one in particular area that you guys go, okay, this is what we really would like to draw from.
So I guess I'll maybe tell a story, a little bit to kind of answer that in a very elaborate way, but and kind of roundabout. But
hey, it's the perfect way for the show.
Yeah, I in the years that I've been here, we've gone from 3,000-ish a night to 4,800 a night. With it increases every single year I've been here. Excluding the non-existent 2020 season.
Yeah.
Significant jumps every year to the point where operating revenue has grown by it's 2.5 times what it was my first year. So as that has grown, marketing budgets have grown. And over that time, we have also had massive investments in the stadium. There's been roughly $6 to $7 million in upgrades put into the stadium. Some done by the Village of Schaumburg in a capital improvement plan that I negotiated with and got signed the day that we shut down for COVID. But it finally got put in. We got a new beer garden going in this year. Last year was a bunch of outdoor suites and stuff. But a significant amount done by us and our ownership, including a brand new video board a year and a half ago, a brand new video board system. So there's 28 screens throughout the stadium that are all tied directly into that video board system, and a completely renovated suite level, all of that stuff. So to answer your question, all of these developments and on all these things that we've done, from enhancing the marketing and creating a stronger brand image, such as removing the 6-color logo and focusing in on a 3-color logo, all of this stuff all adds up to why we've been able to grow over those years. And, my first year was the first year that Rosemont existed. And I remember the first couple months I got there, like, oh, how are you going to compete with this? They've got a brand new, $55 million stadium 20 minutes from you. And I was like, I don't know, just focus on my own stuff and go from there. Like, it was pretty, like, do the best I can. But as my first year was kind of a learning curve of what we have, what we don't have, what our strengths are, we started to target different areas and improve different areas in order to drive a better product. For example, the year prior to me being here, we operated at about a 30% occupancy level on our suite level. But we're sitting in a absolute business hub, industrial hub. There's so much business headquarters all around us in Schaumburg, Elk Grove Village, Carroll Stream, all these towns that are literally, 5 to 10 minutes from our ballpark. that seemed like, a ridiculously low number. I was embarrassed, by that, but that's a massive opportunity. So we invested heavily in the suite level and invested heavily in the experience that one would get on the suite level. We converted the press box into a brand new bar that was a communal area called the Jim Beam Club that oversees everywhere. Completely overhauled the entire suite level. All suites have been renovated and updated, kind of designed how I'd want to see them and then, a whole department that just handles all of the hospitality on that side. And now we operate at about a 90 to 95% occupancy rate on the suite level. We're basically sold out almost every single night on the suite level, including Tuesday nights, Wednesday nights, whatever.
Yeah.
And that is a massive boost there. But that's one window, right? So you have to then go to what's going to change and bring more families into the seating bowl. What kind of experiences are going to be wanted there? I've noticed in Chicago, it's, in Illinois as a whole, you tend to get taxed a lot. You tend to get nickeled and dimed a lot.
Yeah.
And then it's an experience that isn't enjoyable for anybody. And you go to all these other venues and it's like, you buy your ticket for whatever the ticket price is, but then you're almost doubling that in whatever the parking is going to be. Every little attraction is extra money. I got rid of that bullshit. Sorry.
You good.
Got rid of that crap. Sorry.
You're all good around here.
Got rid of that stuff and tried to create an experience where when you come to the ballpark, you're getting treated with respect, right? We don't charge for parking. You come in, you park, at all. And I don't want to make people fork over money. Is that we took and renovated our kids level or kids zone out in left field, brand new area. It's got 7 inflatables, a 45-foot obstacle course, all this stuff branded to us. We don't charge for the kids zone. It's not an extra fee. The last thing you want to do is make some parent tell their kid that they can't go into a fun area because they don't want to fork over an extra $10, nor do you want to make them feel like they're, being nickeled and dimed every turnaround. Stuff like that to kind of enhance the experience for the individual fan. And then, kind of going through demographics and various things and how to appeal to different demographics within our market. It's interesting, but only 14.8% of our attendance or 14.8% of our ticket revenue, technically I should use the right term, comes from Schaumburg. The rest comes from a 20-mile radius. So, drawing from additional markets, continuing to grow that out, and recognizing the strengths and weaknesses of those markets, from the different demographics, whether they're going to have an appeal towards baseball, not have an appeal towards baseball, what other events could we do that might, appeal to that demographic outside of baseball, to enhance the venue as a whole, which is going to just make the baseball venue better overall. These are all things that we factor in, and that's a big reason for the continued growth. That and just trying to do things the right way. And when we do our giveaway items, I always try to do stuff that is actually going to last. People are actually going to wear it because I want them doing that. I don't do chintzy crap. Yeah. I don't, when we do fireworks shows, we try to make them the biggest and best that we can do. Last year, we were able to successfully add drone shows to our mix, and those were incredibly successful. We sold out a stadium, with 8,000 people each time. That's, something I thought when I got here the first year I'd never ever do, and then all of a sudden, I'm doing that 3 or 4 or 5 times a year. Okay. That's what you kind of do is you break it down into all the different categories. This year we're opening up a brand new multi-tiered beer garden down the first baseline, and that was part of the process of expanding our offerings to people who are just coming out and want to watch a game and have a beer, right? It's not the families, right? It's a different group of that people where we're trying to fill up that baseline with, that's really what you do is you just start looking at what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are. And, then you look at the opportunities and threats. I think that's business 101, the SWOT analysis, and go from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that was definitely getting towards what I was going to say, because I noticed you did a lot of the upgrades, and we've covered a lot of them on the show. Most recently, the first base beer garden, like you said, and that kind of led me to think, is there a certain trend in these renovations that you're noticing? Oh, people seem to be enjoying this more than others, such as, I know when I go to a lot of games, because obviously I go to a lot of games, but Sussex, the main one, and formerly Rockland, now New York's another one. And I noticed in the more common space areas, in New York, for example, they have their one Bridge Bar, up the left field side. But there's a lot of people that tend to congregate there. And I've noticed more and more recently, people seem to enjoy that or open space. So I'm just wondering, is that similar out west, where you seem to notice there's people, maybe they're not as fervent baseball fans, or maybe they just say, you know, a 3 hour long game is a long time. I like to get up and walk around a little bit, get different views. Is there a certain type of improvement you've seen, like, just by eye in it, like, you know, people seem to be congregating to this, congregating towards that. They seem to not be using this. Is there anything in particular?
So I'd say in that same vein, to kind of support your comment, we actually removed the back 3 rows of seating from every section. Handicap sections already had those platforms, but then the rest of them, we removed the back 3 rows of seating and expanded our concourse and put drink rails in each of those areas. Okay. And then strategically do not sell that space. That is roaming, walk in, walk out space, because of the exact thing you're talking about. We want people to be able to walk around and just kind of go where they want to go and be kind of free flowing. Those additional drink rails and everything are a big part that stands in with what you're talking about. Just that kind of walk around and roam around, and you could stand here and watch the game from here, or go over there, and you know, and just kind of free flowing. I think that overall, we've tried to produce more than a specific item. We try to produce a specific vibe, right? It's more about the feel of the stadium.
Yeah.
When I got here, you know, the stadium was built in 1999. It was built for the Schaumburg Flyers, who were here for 11 years before they folded, kind of unceremoniously. 2010, which I watched happen from afar, as I was in Fargo at the time. But you know, the Flyers had a completely different color scheme, a completely different mindset. You know, the late 90s design is a completely different design mindset than you would see currently in the stadium building. And then we came in 2012 with a 6-color logo and our own mindset, right? And the main focus for me is how to create a ballpark that is designed for our brand, our organization. So getting rid of all these different colors that are everywhere, and carpets and walls and all that stuff, and getting into orange, black, and white everywhere. And then updating to the fan experience levels that people are expecting out of a venue at this point, right? Because it's not the same as it was in 99. It's not the same that it was in 2010. Trying to get a little more utilizing screens, utilizing things that are more experiential, you know, knowing that not everyone's going to sit and watch the game, but trying to make that accessible to them so they don't get disconnected from the game no matter what they're doing. Because that is the reason we're here in the first place, you know? And just making the stadium upgrades and everything are really about designing that. Now, we also, the other part of that vibe is creating a major league experience in a minor league setting, right? And it's really about how do we, I mean, we're not going to compete with Wrigley Field. You're talking about a historic landmark, you know? And guaranteed rate being a major league ballpark, you know, you don't necessarily compete with that, but how do you make an environment, even though our stadium is a replication of Wrigley, if you look at the actual field. But how do you make an environment where people feel like this was on par with that without doing the 2-hour traffic drive into the city, right? And without doing all that stuff. And that's kind of the general vibe and focus of all of it, is how do you make the stadium feel professional? How do you make it feel like an experience that is more on par with going to a major league game than, you know, not.
Exactly.
Everything from how you treat the walk-up music to what's on the video board to what color things are painted. That's all part of that experience.
Yeah, it has to be choreographed a certain way to achieve that feel. And I think that's what a lot of teams kind of miss now, is they don't understand that, like, it can't all just be boiled down into like some simple system. You have to really have your hand on the feel of things and get that vibe right to understand, like, okay, people like this, they don't like that. And you just have to create the experience and the ambience, because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. It's just, if they walk in and they have a good time, they feel comfortable there, and they feel like, you know, I really want to keep doing this, they're going to keep doing it. And so that's definitely something to hit on there. Ryan, do you have anything to add on that? Or?
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking about, I mean, I beat the drum always of there's something to learn from the Savannah Bananas. And I think I always go back to, you don't need dancing. You don't need dancing, but you can take notes from what they do. I mean, that ballpark sucks. That Grayson Stadium is like, it's cool in a historical way, but like, it's a tough scene if you're looking for amenities. And they got in there and they were like, okay, but don't worry about the stadium. Let's talk about how we make people feel when they're in the stadium. And I think that can kind of extrapolate out. And I think that's something that you're doing a really good job with, is people are going to Schaumburg games and feeling like, this is an exciting experience. This is an engaging experience. And this is a good value, which is another big thing that I think sometimes teams overlook when, they're thinking about the fan experiences. Are we making sure this feels worth the money, whether it's money they're spending on merch or just to get in the ballpark? But that's sort of, if I look like I was drifting a little bit during that, it's because you really set me on a thought process of sort of the implications of, meeting a fan where they are when they walk into the ballpark to sort of give them that experience. But I can change the subject. I will not harp on the Bananas thing. I will get off of that soapbox.
I will get into an argument with you, but
well, hey, no, go for it.
No,
I'm interested. I'm so interested.
No, to your point. So I have nothing but respect for what they do and whatnot. But I mean, they're Harlem Globetrotters for baseball.
Yeah. Oh,
so.
Yeah.
I hate when almost every day someone sends me one of their links and be like, you should do this. And I'm like, no, my product is professional baseball. I do a completely different product than that, but to your point, it's about the general experience and the overall experience too, which is what makes that successful, is knowing what they are and what they're trying to do.
Right. And I think there's something to, you might not have as many TikTok followers, but if you cut the Savannah Bananas product out at the warning track, it becomes a much more reasonable and attractive thing without making it Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. And I think when you because there's two different things happening there. There's the show of what's happening there, which is the thing that I think it gets a lot of the debate. But the thing that strikes me when I've been around that organization and sort of seen what they're up to is just how many times you're engaged by what's going on, not just on the field, obviously, but like on the concourse, whether it's like merch prices or food prices or like availability of things or understanding of what people actually are looking for in something. That's where I'm like, I think that's
a valuable part.
Yeah. That you can actually put on what we call a real baseball team. So Jamie Bennett is not going to be dancing, is what I'm hearing.
Probably not. No.
Okay, fair. I think he'd make it work, but it's fine. I'll go sort of semi-related because you said a lot of things that absolutely fascinated me here. So I'll stay on, I guess, the marketing front of things, because this is a conversation I love to have with people who have been in the front office game for a while. Do you have, from your time, mostly, I guess, Fargo and with Schaumburg, a favorite promotion? And related, do you have a promotion that just has really not worked the way you thought, and like any lessons that you were able to take from it?
Seen a lot of promotions not work.
In there,
the trial and error, right? You never really know what's going to take sometimes. When we tested out the drone show, we didn't know what to expect, and then it turned out to be fantastic. One-off promotions, I think one of my favorite from Fargo would have been, we went kind of all in on Back to the Future night. We had the DeLorean, we had all that stuff. We did some great graphics for it. This was many, many years ago. The one thing we missed on, and Josh Buchholz, who's with the American Association now, was really pushing for getting William Zabka to come out and do a Karate Kid night. And we had it like almost lined up and we didn't pull the trigger. And then like a year later, Cobra Kai comes out.
Oh, tough one.
Oh, why didn't we get William Zabka? There was a thing that happened in Fargo one time. There's a big Potato Days festival in one of the small towns just outside of Fargo Moorhead in Barnesville. And they would kind of present a night and we would do mashed potato wrestling after the game. And this was the second year doing it. The first year we had fans doing it and they used actual wrestling and whatnot. And we had this really long ninth inning where all of the people signed up for it just disappeared. Right. So then it came down to me, who was the box office manager and whatnot. This is one of my first years there, and our promotions director, Eric, looking at each other, putting on the suit, the whatever plastic suits, getting in the tub of mashed potatoes, and without discussing a word, whether we were going to fight or pro wrestling style this thing, went straight into pro wrestling style, and I power bombed him into a pool of mashed potatoes. This is actually something you can find on YouTube.
Excellent. Put it in the show notes, Nick.
Yeah, it will be in the show notes.
Yes, this is going to be good times. That's probably one of the weirdest things I've done is power bombed a coworker into a pool of mashed potatoes. Like Big Daddy Cool Diesel. So that sticking to the marketing thing. One of the most failed promos I had, and it was one of the biggest lessons I learned, was the year I came to Schaumburg in 2018. We had won the championship the year prior in 17. And we did a replica championship ring giveaway. And in my years in Fargo, this was something that was just people lined up for. It's one of the most popular things, went nuts. We got really nice replica rings, and we did it. I don't remember, it was like a Thursday night or something like that. And the weather wasn't bad. It was a little chilly. It was early in the year, but it wasn't bad. And, we got like 1,500 of these things or whatever. And I remember that we didn't run out until the game started.
Yeah.
And I remember going, what? Yeah. Like, this is early on in my very first year, and it's really the lesson I learned at the time of just how much we needed to build up the true fan base, the actual follows the team, cares about the winning and losing fan base, and how much work was truly ahead of me in making things work. So I was just like, I got work to do, and now almost everything, replica jersey giveaways, all of that stuff, it's like 8 minutes in and we're gone, right? 5 minutes in, everything's done. We had to increase the number of things we gave away, because the fan base has changed so drastically over those 7 years. But that was one of the first times I just kind of went to my office and was like, oh crap, I got so much work to do.
Yeah.
Like know thyself, know thy fan base.
Yeah, and like I gotta build this up.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting too. There's that parallel between what even the organization thinks of the team versus what the community thinks of the team and focuses on. So it is interesting to see. Like, how long do you think it took to really get a good handle on that?
I think the first 2 years, we grew a little bit. In 2022, when we did replica championship ring giveaway on opening day, because we'd won it in 21. They were gone in 7 minutes. So it didn't take long.
Okay. Wow.
And at that point, that it only took 7 minutes. There was tons of people in line who didn't get one. So it was 7 minutes because that's how quickly you can get people through scanning their ticket and getting in. So that to me was really the point where that had, 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Okay. So quick turnaround there. Nice.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be more of an out of the blue one, perhaps, but we're talking promotions, so I'm going to grab it while I can, because the indie ball story of the day currently playing out about an hour ago was announced that Oakland Ballers are going to be playing against the San Jose Giants, which is, I can't think of another indie ball team that's done an affiliated game, but since you're in such a unique spot, has there been any conversation about playing an American Association team at some point? Because Nick and I are obsessed. We're biased and obsessed about the some sort of indie ball cross championship thing or showcase thing.
World Series.
We're not even going to go there. But I will stop myself after I say, have you at least thought like any of the local teams from the American Association has ever been discussed?
We actually play American Association teams regularly in spring training.
Preseason spring training. It's all coming back to me after I say the words. Fantastic.
I have reached out to King County before about making like a charity kind of back and forth. It hasn't really been all that well received. 7 years ago, when I transferred from the American Association to our league here, the league rules were drastically different. Talent rules were very different. The Frontier League was very focused on everyone being 26 and under, limited experience, whatnot, which it still generally is, but the salary cap differences and the age restrictions made it to where those games probably wouldn't have been very competitive.
Yeah.
But when we absorbed the Can-Am League and brought some of our roster changes and the salary cap up to be more competitive, I think at this point you would have much more of the advantage would definitely be the American Association. They still have a more established roster and a higher salary cap, but they would be competitive baseball games at this point, right? The teams are more in line. So I always thought that was interesting because, we sit in that one area that overlaps, the Chicagoland market, where you have both. So it would be definitely interesting to see. And I think that the games themselves will be competitive and fun, based on the roster changes that have happened over the years. And as our league continues to grow as big as it has been and the giant footprint it has been, I only see that continuing to get better from a competitive landscape as we move forward.
Nick, do you have anything that got toward your question list? I can comment your whole thing. I don't care. I'm just trying to remember that's your podcast, my friend.
Yeah, no.
We played. I'll jump over. We played Gary, Winnipeg, Milwaukee, Lake County, or Lake Country. Sorry. All of those at some point in spring training games.
The things that happen, like I remember, I see them and I go, "Oh yeah, cool," and then the season happens, and I just black out.
Not a big deal. Usually spring training.
That's it. I'm usually like, but I want like I want a full tournament, preferably with mashed potato wrestling, but that's obviously your call. So,
all I was going to say,
I'm ready to defend my title in mashed potato wrestling, by the way. So.
I assumed that you had some sort of championship belt, whether you had it commissioned or not.
Around here somewhere.
Get a golden potato right for the middle part of it. Spud belt.
This spud belt.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I was gonna say, as far as the whole interleague championship going, I remember I dragged Bill Lee into that conversation one time, put him on there because I knew he worked in the Western Hockey League. So I was like, Memorial Cup style this thing. We take the top three and a host. And I just remember asking about that. But I was going to kind of shift gears just a little bit here because first off, I also going to only have a couple more to go. I appreciate taking the time with us today. But obviously, we've seen some former and I think a couple current Schaumburg Boomers that are playing in the WBC qualifier. So I was just kind of curious about that and how you guys see some of your guys on these teams and see them doing well. And if I'm not mistaken, a couple of them had some good highlights out there.
Yeah, Chase Dawson was making a lot of highlight plays out there and really tearing up in the Nicaraguan League and is now on the Nicaraguan team for the World Baseball Classic. Nice. So he's had a tremendous time. I know we had several other players down there, not so much for the WBC, but for Nicaraguan League. I think they were all on the same team. We had 4 or 5 guys all playing for the same squad. And they had a really successful campaign in that league. So that was really great to see. But yeah, I think Chase Dawson had 2 or 3 highlights that were getting major online pub for some incredible catch, some base hits, stuff like that did a great job.
Yeah, no, he's been a guy that's been around for a long time in the Frontier, certainly. He's made quite a career for himself there. And I guess the last area I really want to go here, and it's very much an unserious area, but I'm going to do it anyway. You seem to have an affinity of working for teams that are named after birds. Most notably, the 2 that I'm curious about are Shuckers and Boomers. I've never heard of either one of these birds. I was wondering if you could explain to me what exactly is a Shucker and a Boomer.
Okay, so Chucker is, I don't remember exactly. It's not a prairie chicken, but a small kind of prairie bird like that you find out in that region. And a boomer is actually the nickname for a male prairie chicken.
Okay.
Based on the booming noise that it makes when it's trying to lure a mate.
Okay.
Vibes.
All right. So would it be comparable at all to a pheasant, or would it just be something entirely different?
Yeah, you're getting it right. Like,
okay, so we're getting the same.
Prairie chickens and pheasants are slightly different. Yeah.
Okay, but we're in the same ballpark now.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, good. I'm just trying to
and
like
the red
relate
hawk does not actually exist. That would be
like a red-tailed hawk or something like that.
Yeah, that's not an actual bird.
Yeah. So out of all three of these birds, I would assume the red hawk would be faring the best in any sort of conflict here.
I don't know. Prairie chicken's going to be mean.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then I didn't know.
Unless they're looking for a mate, they're going to be all riled up as they're getting into it. So,
gonna have some sonic booms, make scare the hawk off.
I thought you were going to say "bring the boom" again. I thought you were going to go back.
Yeah,
to the
it's funny you say "bring the boom" because our marketing slogan is "feel the boom," but that's all right.
Okay.
You were so close. You were so close.
I see. This is why I should have went harder on the website as opposed to just the straight up Google search and then my usual LinkedIn profile dive.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my go-to spot there. Give away the secrets, but yeah. Ryan, did you have anything else left you want to?
I'm glad that you went that direction, just because you really sort of allow me to ask this question without seeming like a complete idiot. Even though, no, that's a lie. I am. Doesn't matter. I did notice that you on the team website, you have a major quote from Major League, which I love, first of all, and fantastic work on the photo as well, because getting the point to the eyes as well as what looks to be a ring in the photo, that's a good vibe. Now, is that your favorite baseball movie, or do you have another one? But that's just a great quote. It's the because you got the "We've got uniforms and everything." It's really great Major League quote, which is funny, by the way. I've always thought it was one of the better quotes for anybody involved with indie ball when it comes to what people think of it.
You know, it's kind of more of a Mount Rushmore thing. I think Major League and Bull Durham are the best baseball movies. I know there's people big Unfielded Dreams and it's up there, but it's Bull Durham for me all day and Major League all day. The one that's going to make that list that might surprise people is Little Big League.
Oh,
okay.
Now that's an underappreciated movie that deserves more recognition than it gets, and definitely holds up, I think, better than some of the others.
I've seen some good deep dives into how they cast that movie, talking about how they look for baseball guys who go play baseball first and then worried about the acting, which I think does come through. Well, since you're
interesting note on that is Pete Crow Armstrong with the Chicago Cubs is the son of the mom in that movie.
Really?
The actual actress is the mom. Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Mike McGreevy is the fake name of the Big Twins pitcher in that movie, who is now that name is also being used by an actual real life pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals.
That's beautiful. What a world. Life imitates art.
Twins.
Art imitates life. It's amazing. Well, since your two are Bull Durham and Major League, I'll go with and you have a Jake Taylor quote, in fact, on the website. If you had to put a catcher on the roster, who are you going with? You going Jake Taylor or Crash Davis?
Our roster?
Yeah, I think that's more appropriate.
They'd both be a veteran slot, but yeah.
They'd definitely be veteran slots.
They have to toss them a coaching position too for salary.
Chicks dig the long ball. I'm going to go with Crash Davis.
It's a fact. That is a fact.
Sure, feels the position better too.
Honestly,
the knees on Taylor could give out at any minute.
Anytime.
Yeah, can't trust that.
And your local steakhouse sponsor will be thrilled about the bull getting a little attention in the outfield, so it'll be great.
But if they're named after a prairie chicken, wouldn't a more chicken-based restaurant make sense?
We're not doing this. We're not doing this right now. I'm not doing this again with you. That's what I've got. I've gone through all my relevant questions. You can tell because I'm on to my Bull Durham questions, which is naturally where most of my interviews end. So I will give the floor back to the two of you.
Yeah, I think that's a good place. So we appreciate taking time, Mike. And what we're going to do now is what we do every week, which is when someone's generous enough to come on and spend some time with us, we give them the last word, the last 5-10 minutes of the show. If there's anything you want to say, anything you want to promote, anything that you want to go back to that we started to talk about or we didn't talk about that you wanted to get to, now's the time to do that. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you too much because I've already apparently given you almost an hour's worth of content that you're going to have to sort through and turn into something usable instead of just a dribble coming out of my mouth.
You treated Nick better than me, don't worry.
Yeah, I'm just going to say thanks, guys, for having me on. And, good luck following all the leagues this summer.
Yeah, trust me, we appreciate the good luck. We're going to need it. There's more teams than ever, and it is certainly fun to do, but not the easiest thing in the world. But we appreciate taking the time to hop on with us today, and obviously wish you guys the best of luck. And the Chicago road trip is one that I think we definitely need to do at some point because there's definitely a lot of good stuff out there. So once again, thanks for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Once again, I'd like to thank Mike for coming on the show. Appreciate him taking the time out of his day to come and talk to us a bit. So why don't we park a minute or two just to give our general thoughts on how it went?
Didn't expect it to so vehemently agree with some of the things he was saying. Kind of a vibe.
Yeah, no, culturally, I felt like it was pretty lockstep with him, especially philosophically.
Yeah. So it was interesting to sort of see the moving parts behind the attendance sort of crown in the Frontier League. That said, do you believe the attendance numbers, Nicholas?
Oh, that's a question. I mean, I believe them to the degree that, everyone inflates their number. It's, the most open secret in baseball that whatever you report isn't the real number. It may be close to it, but isn't the real one. I do think they're probably, a top 2 team for attendance. I'm not sure if I believe the Post number, which was close to 5.
I'm gonna have to pull that real quick. My bad. I should have been ready. Yeah, reported 4,600 plus.
46, I believe.
The closest in the league behind that is Quebec at around 3,400.
I believe they're close to 4.
Maybe a little over. 4. I'll give them that.
Yeah, I do around 4. I think 4 is genuinely right. I think their mindset's right. I think they have a good in tune with the community. I think that's probably about right. And that inflation wouldn't be crazy.
I think it's been my take before on the podcast is like they come. I think there are some numbers that are just straight fabricated in attendance reporting. There's teams that are like, the optimistic view of this is what that attendance is. I think that's probably closer to where Schaumburg is. And then there's other ones that are just like somewhere in between where it's like, well, if we also add all the tickets we've given away divided by the number of games, well, that's what the number is. You're like, well, that's really reaching. And then there's the teams are just telling the truth out there straight up, which is I respect, but
wild decision.
So depending on the organization, it's a wild decision.
I do think it was a good conversation. I think a lot of the points brought were good. Also, mashed potato wrestling, phenomenal. Linked in the show notes if you want to watch it.
Way sexier than you would anticipate.
Ryan's going through a lot right now, so you got.
It's been a weird day. If you can't tell by the vibe, a little cranky, feeling a little wild, ready to party a little bit.
Yeah, no, overall, I thought it was a really good conversation. I really enjoyed that one, and don't know what else to really go on with that. But
the timing is perfect because I have an oil truck literally pulling up to my house right now, so there's solid chaos in the back. Perfect.
So, you want to do some plugs and then get out of here?
Yeah, hopefully over the sound of these dogs barking.
I can't hear them.
Perfect. Indie Ball Nation on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, podcast platforms. I think Sunday night is going to be part 1 of the NOCO series. And if it isn't Sunday night, it will be Monday morning. That might just depend on how long the upload takes. I'd like to have it upload literally today ahead of time, but if I'm honest, the next 2 days are really busy. So we'll see. I don't want to be rude while people are over at my house. So we'll see. But either Sunday night or Monday morning, I think Sunday night though.
All right. Sounds good. Indie Ball Pod on Twitter, Indie Ball Report, everywhere else. Working on some stuff. We'll get it out sooner than later. That's really all there is to it. So, yeah, have fun with that.
Oh, yeah.
So, with that said, nothing left to add. Until next time, don't forget to play ball.